Hello, welcome to Serious About Law, a periodic podcast hosted by me, Merritt McAlister, the Dean at the University of Florida Levin College of Law. These are conversations about the law, legal practice, law school, with folks who are connected to the University of Florida Levin College of Law community, students, faculty, staff, alumni. Today, I'm really proud and honored to have with us someone who straddles two of those categories, at least for maybe 24 more hours, which is a student who will, as of tomorrow, when we're recording this, so by the time this is out, will be an alumna of the University of Florida Levin College of Law. I'm here with Emma Towler.
Hi,
Emma,
thanks
welcome.
for having me.
Of course. I'm really thrilled to have you here, Emma. Emma is about to graduate tomorrow and has been part of the University of Florida community now for 7 years.
7 years, yes.
Went here undergrad, is a double Gator, as they say. You're our second student conversation, but the first one that's like bridging into this alumni realm. Emma, I must admit that we have to start with how we met.
Yes.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. So Emma and I first met I think it was like my second week on the job as an interim dean in Washington, D.C. on the steps of the Capitol.
The Capitol, yes.
And Emma, I didn't know it was you. Why didn't I know it was you?
So in undergrad, I was the mascot at the University of Florida. So I was Alberta the Gator.
Isn't that the coolest?
It was so fun. So I did it for my senior year. And one of my last appearances, actually this was the last one, was going to Washington, D.C. for Gator Day. Mm-hmm. So we took over the Capitol for a day and all of the UF admin and faculty were there for the day. And so we had a section where we were taking pictures on the Capitol steps. And so I was in the Alberta suit, and that was, I think, probably 2 weeks after you had been announced.
Yeah. It was like literally, like I was my very first trip for UF as a quote unquote dean, and it was the dean and administrator pictures. And I remember standing there. It was my first Gator chomp picture and everything. And little did I know, an incoming law student was Alberta.
Yeah, and so I knew at the time because I'd seen the press release that it was you, and so I recognized you in the suit, and I was like, wait, I think that's Dean McAlister, the new law school dean. Yeah. But obviously I can't talk or anything.
Yeah,
so
you're not allowed to talk.
I was very excited and giving a Gator chomp and waving and everything. And then it wasn't until orientation that I came up it was about a month later. And I walked up and said, hi, so we've actually met before, but you don't know that we've met before. And so I introduced myself and explained who I was and that we had met in the suit. So I don't know where the picture is, but
I know. We need to find that picture. We will post that picture when we post this podcast as for a full circle moment. And you are our graduation student speaker tomorrow as well.
Yes, I'm very excited.
We're
a little
very
nervous,
excited. Are you nervous?
Just a tad, but I'm excited.
It's
the largest crowd of people I've ever spoken to. So it'll be good. It's a good challenge.
Just imagine everybody in their pajamas or their underwear, right? They say. It'll be fun. Graduation is my favorite day on campus because it's everybody's happy, very few complaints. And even if people complain, they usually get over it because they're so happy.
I just love the outfits. I think the robes are so fun. And
you like the robes?
Yeah, I think they're fun. I like the hat.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it looks great on me, but I think it's a fun hat. It's one of a kind. And I feel that it's different than the undergrad cap because it's like you had to show that you like earned a cool degree to get the hat.
I see. Plus you get stripes on your arm now. Like it's like the doctorate
It feels very official.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see everyone dressed up.
Totally official. All right, Emma, why did you come to University of Florida as an undergrad? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I grew up in Jacksonville. So I was 90 minutes away from Gainesville my entire life. And my mom went to UF. And then my grandfather went here for a period of time. So I say I'm a third generation Gator.
That counts.
But I'm an 8th generation Floridian. So Florida's always just kind of been in my blood. And I've always loved the state. And I always loved UF. Like we would come to sporting games like football and everything like that. And so I've always just kind of loved UF. And then when I was in high school, I went to a performing arts school for middle school and high school. So I was a musical theater major. And a lot of my friends were wanting to pursue the arts and kind of go that route. But I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And so for me, I knew law school was the end goal at the
why law? Why was that?
So in 4th grade, we took a field trip to Tallahassee and we did a mock trial in the Florida Supreme Court. And my teacher had chosen all of us to kind of play different roles. And so my teacher chose me to be the Chief Justice of our class mock trial. It was about school uniforms, whether we should or shouldn't have them. So we had a respondent, plaintiff sitting there and actually arguing and everything, which was really fun. And I got to be part of the court to make the decision. And I was obsessed with it. I just left and I loved the decision making and just the critical thinking skill component of it, of having to hear an argument, work with other people to make a decision. And so I came home that day and I said, Mom, I had the best day in Tallahassee. And she was like, oh, what was your favorite part? And I said, oh my gosh, I got to be the Chief Justice of this, like, in the Florida Supreme Court. Like, I was in the chair with the gavel.
You actually got to sit on the
We got to sit on the bench in the chair. And at the time it was Chief Justice Kennedy, who's now here at UF. And so I've gotten to tell him over time to say like, oh, Justice Kennedy, I've sat in your chair before. But I fell in love with it. And I came home and I said, Mom, how do I become involved in this? And she said, you have to go to law school. And so from 4th grade, I said, deal. And I was set on going to law school. So kind of my whole life, I knew that it was in the back of my mind of something I wanted to do. And I always had maybe other things of like, oh, maybe I'll pursue the arts and be an actor. But in the back of my mind, I always knew that kind of law school would be where I ended up.
I have to interrupt for a minute though. How did you rule on the case on
We said no school uniforms.
No school uniforms.
We liked the creativity component of you get to pick what you wear. And at our school, I went to a public school, so we got to wear what we wanted anyways. And then on Fridays, we would wear our like school t-shirt with khakis. So we kind of thought the way that our school was doing it was the best approach. But we said no school uniforms. We were convinced by that side of the oral argument. Yeah, they had OAs and everything. We could ask them questions. And
really?
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really immersive for 4th graders.
I bet.
But I left that day and I just kind of fell in love with the law. And so I did things in high school where I kind of went and like shadowed judges for a day while I was in high school. I went and shadowed the state attorney's office. And so I kind of was able to see from high school that I loved. And throughout that time, everyone was going to Florida from those judges and those lawyers that I had met. So when I kind of was looking at UF, I knew that for undergrad, UF kind of had everything. I was accepted into the honors program at UF. And so I liked that within a school of 50,000 people, I was really worried that I wouldn't know anyone and that I was just going to walk around and kind of just be a fish in a really big pond and not have any friends. But I found through the honors program that it was kind of a smaller given group of friends immediately because they had special housing, special classes. And so I kind of felt that each time I came to UF and toured, the community was getting smaller and smaller. And I was seeing that in 50,000 people, I would actually know way more than I thought. So I ended up applying to a bunch of schools out of state as well for undergrad. I thought that I wanted to leave the state. And my dad was very financially smart and was like, hey, UF is free for undergrad. These out-of-state schools are way more expensive. You know you want to go to law school, which can be expensive as well. Why don't you kind of take the more financially responsible decision? And I loved UF. So it kind of both work together. And so I decided on UF, and I always say like my first year at UF was challenging. I think it was a really hard freshman year. It was hard to get involved, hard to kind of find my way. It was also COVID year. So at the end of freshman year, I got sent home in the middle of the pandemic. But I actually say like after that, my sophomore year was really when I started to find my friends and kind of find my way at UF. And I became like the biggest Gator fan alive. So much so that I wanted to be the mascot.
You became a mascot.
But yeah, I think that was kind of what led me to UF. And so through that time, I started meeting new friends at UF, fell in love with the different organizations I was part of. I noticed that every time I walked around campus, I found someone that I knew from my walk from the library to the union, and I could smile and wave and talk with them. And so I felt that a school of 50,000 became this really small knit community that I think was something I was looking for.
Well, you did really well. You graduated magna cum laude. What did you study here at UF?
So I did political science and economics. So I came in as a poli-sci major, and I knew I kind of wanted to do a double major. I had a bunch of AP credits from high school, so I knew that I needed to add some extra degrees in order to stay the full 4 years. So I added an econ degree because I always had kind of loved math, but I didn't necessarily want to do a full business degree. I just kind of wanted that background of math. And I knew in law school, you're not doing a lot of math, but there's more math in the practice of law than you think sometimes. And so I kind of knew that I should have that as a background. And I actually was a minor in family, youth, and community sciences as well.
Which is an IFAS, isn't it?
Which is an IFAS, yes. And I loved it. It was honestly probably my favorite minor that I had. I had a great professor, and so much so that I had another teacher, and he was like, why aren't you majoring in this? I was like, it's too late. I've already committed to poli-sci and econ. I can't change. But I ended up TAing for a class in the family, youth, community sciences program. And I still keep in touch with a lot of those professors over there. And so I felt like I got a really good range of education from kind of the more math classes to the reading and writing with like the poli-sci and FYCS.
And obviously did not get deterred from the law school goal.
No, I did not. And I think it even further affirmed it in ways. I took a economics class, specifically antitrust economics, in undergrad my senior year. And the class was much more legal focused in the economic sense with the antitrust than I thought. Like, we would read cases, and then he would talk about the economics behind the case to help explain how antitrust worked and how we could actually graph it out. And I ended up coming and taking antitrust here at UF. And there were so many cases that I'd already recognized the names and the outcome because of that class in undergrad. And so I think it helped a lot in that transition to law school of preparing me for law school, but it wasn't as intense as a law school class.
So you were a Gator scholar, which is a program where folks can go from UF undergrad into law school without taking the LSAT and all of that. So obviously you made a decision at some point that you really wanted to stay at UF. What did that look like for you? I'm sure you could have gone no matter, to a lot of different places, but you chose to stay here, even though at different points in time, and we'll get there, you are leaving out of state to start your career. But why stay at UF for you? Why was that pull significant?
I think for me in my senior year, I knew that I just loved UF so much. I felt that everyone was so supportive of one another. And when it kind of came time to start thinking about taking the LSAT and looking into that, I'd heard about the Gator Scholars Program. And it was fairly new at the time. I think it was about its third year when I started hearing about it. And I had looked at the time, and I was starting to look at other law schools and kind of their programs and how they operated. And I kept just feeling that I would kind of do this comparison of like, okay, if I got into here or here between UF, would I pick UF? And each time the answer was yes, that I would pick UF.
Why?
I think it was that I took a class in honors. Now it's available to all students in undergrad, but it was Intro to Law at Levin. And I took that in an honors section. And specifically, it was actually my freshman spring. And we came to the law school. We took classes. We were reading Pearson versus Post property with the Fox case. Professor Wright came in and taught us as freshmen in college. And I felt that the professors were so engaging and just really cared about you. And so I think from there, I already knew the faculty were very supportive of students. And then I think too, when I knew a lot of people through involvement. I was involved in student government. I was a preview staffer. So many people that I had worked with in undergrad as leaders came to the law school. And as I was talking with them, while they were stressed about classes, they kept talking about, oh my gosh, I have so many friends. I love law school. I think everyone should go to law school. And so it kind of became this thing that I noticed that everyone who went to UF Law was really happy. And I think for me, that was something that I carry myself as a very like energetic, positive person. And I knew that law school would be challenging, but I wanted to be surrounded by people who would have the same kind of positive approach towards life when they're going through something that can be really challenging and probably the most academically rigorous experience that you've ever had. So for me, I knew that when I was kind of wanting to apply to law school, I wanted a community like that. And I felt that at UF, it was just very clear from day one that that was how the school operated. And through the Gator Scholars, you're very lucky to get a scholarship to the university, which was very grateful. And I knew that through that, I would also be able to graduate debt-free, which for me was very important with graduating law school, of that I wouldn't be in debt for many years, that law school would be more of a place where I could just learn and enjoy learning and not have to stress about like loans in the background.
Sure. That's, we often emphasize how important that freedom of choice is, where you can, chart your own path, make your own choices about where you want to go, start in big law if you want to, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
Not to, reveal, but Emma is going to big law. But take the most of those opportunities, or make a choice to do public service work, or work as a district attorney, and learn to try cases, right? Whatever that path is, to have the freedom of choice. What you've described, I think, what I think is very true about our culture and our community. We are intentional about trying to create a space where I think folks feel supported and we have a little fun. We try not to take ourselves too seriously while we're doing something that is serious. That's why we call this Serious About Law, is like, we'll be serious about law, but not serious about ourselves. That's kind of the point. Tell me about like what you think makes the law school experience special, enjoyable. How does that connect to sort of UF as a whole? You're sort of an expert on UF. What part of us mirrors a lot of, what makes UF special? Talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the intersection between the classes, between 1Ls, 2Ls, and 3Ls, we all know each other, I think, at UF. And I think at other schools, it could be a little more separated, of where you just know your class and you know no one else. Whereas here, I just remember immediately coming to orientation, and on the first couple of days of school, 2Ls and 3Ls coming up to me and just saying, "Hi, are you a 1L?" And I was like, "Yes." And they immediately introduced themselves. They were asking me who were my professors, what classes did I have, what did my schedule look like. They were asking, what did I want to be involved in, what was I thinking. I felt that from that first moment, they were invested in my personal success. And right back, I could ask them questions of, what classes do you recommend? And they were just, I think everyone's just a wealth of knowledge, and they're willing to share it with everyone. You don't have to just know them or be friends with them before someone will share the information. And so I think that was something that immediately stood out to me about UF. Was I would go into class, someone's like, "I have an outline for that class. Let me send it to you." You can use it to kind of like help build your notes throughout the semester, so when you're confused. And I think that was just so comforting to me, to know that I didn't have to go searching for it and feel really awkward asking for it. It was just being offered to say, "Hey, we want to help you. We want to make sure you succeed. Here's tools that I had that helped me be successful. I want to give them to you." And I'll never forget the very first day of school. I park, and there's a graduating 3L. His name's Mark Freeman. He is pulling into the car. I get out of the car. I'm walking in. He immediately introduces himself to me. And he goes, "Hey, are you a 1L, 2L, 3L?" And I go, "Oh, I'm a 1L." And he immediately he was like, "If you need anything, let me know." And just that, it was that instant. We're in a parking lot at UF, and he's immediately making sure that on my very first day of law school, I feel comfortable and I feel accepted, which I think says a lot about our university. And so I think that just goes more, I think, even to the broader UF as a whole, is I didn't feel like it was just from students. I felt like it was from professors and alumni as well. I think the law school does a great job of hosting networking receptions with alumni throughout the year. And so they had one kind of within the first couple weeks of school with all of the alumni when they're here for like their board of trustees, the LCA things. And so they had that whole networking hour. And within that whole hour, every UF alumni was like, "What can I do? Who are you? Where do you come from? What's your background? What do you want to do? What can I do to help?" And I remember leaving with like 20 business cards, and it was just people who wanted to support. And I think I felt the same with my professors. Of every professor was like, "Just come to office hours. You don't have to have a question. You can just come introduce yourself." And I think that's something that I think is what makes UF unique. Is I kind of compare it to that we all are competitive with ourselves. We each want us to do our best. Like, I'm going to put my best foot forward at any time I can, but I'm not going to have someone else fail in order for me to succeed.
Yes.
We're going to make sure that everyone gets to the exact same place at the end. And I think that's what makes UF and the broader kind of Gator Nation as a whole, is that no matter where you are in the country or the world, there's some Gator there who wants to cheer you on. And I think that's what makes it really unique, and why I kind of chose to stay at UF for so many years was I felt that in undergrad, and I didn't want that kind of feeling to leave in law school, especially where I think in law, it's all about connections. It's about who you know and the ability to meet people. And so I think that was something that really stood out to me about UF.
I love when I wear a UF Law shirt somewhere out in the world, someone will always say, "Go Gators." And I can be anywhere, and there will always be someone who's a Go Gators. It 100%. Is a community. Sometimes I describe it as something close to a cult, but like in a good way, right? Good way, yeah. Not like in a scary way, but like a positive community thing. Is there anything about the law school that it surprised you at all? You obviously were on a path where you wanted to be in law school for a really long time. Anything unexpected?
I think the variety of experiences that you could take advantage of in law school, I think really surprised me. I think in my mind, I kind of had always thought, I'm just going to take classes. I'm just going to come to law school. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to sit in my room, take my notes, go home, read, and kind of rinse and repeat. And I found that there's so many more involvement opportunities than I thought realized. And it's not just, oh, you can be on a journal, you can do moot court, which like I chose to do both of that, but there's clinics. And we also just have kind of like regular student organizations for a wide variety of things, whether it's kind of based on like the Law Association for Women, or we have the John Marshall Bar Association, so it's more social. We have JOLSA for like Jewish law students. So I think that was something that was really cool for me, that it was just more than just, okay, you're just going to go to class. And I think that was what surprised me, was that for me, I loved involvement in undergrad. I always say that like involvement is my hobby.
You have been very involved wherever you go.
So
yes.
I think that for me was something that I always say, like when people are like, what do you like to do for fun? I'm like, I actually love to be involved. It's just, I find joy in spending time with other people and like working on a project together. And I thought in law school, I wouldn't necessarily have that kind of joy that I found in undergrad. And that's how I met my closest friends. And I felt in law school that was still available. And I think that was what really surprised me, was that I could do kind of a wide range of things, and you could really do it all because you can vary it out based on the year, the semester. So I was involved in a clinic last fall. So in my 3 years, one of the semesters I got to do a clinic. But
which one?
I did wrongful convictions with Professor Wolking. And so I took her Inside Out class. And so I kind of had found that I wanted to continue on that trajectory with her. And so that was, I think, where I found that I could do a clinic, but also still be involved in law review exec and still participate in the moot court team, and that I could do it all and do what I wanted to do, which I really enjoyed.
Do you sleep, Emma?
I do, actually.
Really?
I love my sleep.
Are you like an 8-hour person?
I am, yes. Okay. Surprisingly. I don't know how I fit it all in a day, but I do.
Okay, so you're just very efficient.
I think I just try to make the most of my time during the day, and I just run around and I'll use random 5 minutes to just get an email out or read for a class or something.
How are you feeling about leaving UF? Like you are uber involved. You were the Florida Blue Key president, which is a huge deal on campus. Is it hard to think about leaving?
I think it is. I think it's bittersweet. I think it's this weird exciting because I'm excited to experience something new. I mean, I've been in Gainesville for 7 years and I love Gainesville. I haven't gotten tired of it. But I think it's also odd at the same time, since this is kind of my new routine. It's my new normal. I have the same people I see every day. And I've always joked that when it was an undergrad, I was like, people were like, oh, you're graduating. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not really leaving. Like, I'm here for 3 years. But this time it's like, oh, no, I'm actually leaving. But I think I'm really excited about what's next. And I think I'm ready. I feel that I really got to do everything I wanted to do during my time at UF Law, whether that was law review, moot court, Florida Blue Key. I got to kind of make the most of each of those experiences. And so it's not that I feel like I've done everything that I could at UF, but I feel that I've really made the most of the time that I've been given in the 7 years. And I'm excited to see what I can do with the other time, like now as I enter the real world. And, you know, I'm excited to get involved in the community and things like that in the legal community. I think I'm really looking forward to that.
So let's talk about that next step. What is the next step for Emma Towler?
Yeah, so in the fall, I'll be moving to New York to work for Cravath, Swaine Moore. I'll be in their litigation department. So I'm really excited to start there.
Which is a very cool job. That's a very prominent, wonderful firm. You'll be doing litigation work. Talk some about sort of what your process of looking for a job was.
Yeah, so when I was looking for a job, I knew that in my 1L summer, I worked for a federal judge. I worked for Judge Barksdale, who was on the podcast recently.
Shout out to Judge Barksdale.
Shout out Judge Barksdale. It was incredible. I had a great summer with her, and she's been such a great mentor to me throughout the 3 years of law school. And so I've been very grateful that I got that experience with her. And so I knew for my 2L summer, I wanted to work for a law firm. I went straight through undergrad to law school. So I really never had a job other than internships and things like that. And so I knew that I wanted to work for a law firm and have that experience to work on cases and have that moment. And so when I was working, I worked with OCPD, the Office of Career and Professional Development, to talk with them about kind of what does the application process look like? When's the timing of it? When do I need to apply? And so they helped me put my resume and my cover letters together for all of the jobs that I was applying to. And I knew that when I was looking for a job, I wanted it to be with preferably a big law firm. I wanted a big emphasis on training. That was something that I really cared about, was that any firm I worked at, they would put time and energy into helping me learn, but also I could give that back to them as well through the experience. And so I think that was really kind of what I was looking for in a firm, mainly was just kind of a good supportive community with a great training. And so that was kind of what led me in the job process. And so I'm excited to move to New York to get started.
And New York was just a happy perk at the end of that process.
So growing up as a theater kid, I always loved Broadway and musical theater and everything. And so for me, I knew that if I ever got the opportunity to work in New York, I would love to be in New York. But I didn't know if it was going to be possible. You know, it's always a big risk of just applying out of state. But I was really lucky that with the law school, I think they were able to show me and say, hey, like, go for it. We have Gators everywhere. We have people who are in every city, like, apply for where you want to be, and what's meant to be is going to work out.
Yeah. A lot of folks feel fear, I think, at times. They say, oh, I love UF, but I feel like I'm going to get stuck in Florida. Obviously not true for you. Not that there's anything wrong about being quote unquote stuck in Florida, right? I mean, as a eighth generation,
it's a beautiful
Floridian,
state. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us do like it, good cost of living, no state income tax, good legal market. But for those who don't want to be quote unquote stuck in Florida, your experience, your friends' experience, opportunities out of state,
there are so many.
Okay.
I think in my class specifically, I have seen probably maybe a third are going out of state. It was really cool this semester. They offered a bar class for out-of-state students specifically. And there was about 18 to 20 of us in the class that chose to take it. And that was immediately 20 people right there that I knew were going out of state, all different states, all across the country, ranging from California to New York. And so I think that really just showed me the breadth of where Gators are going. And I think I found too, even with these kind of 1L, 2L classes, seeing where they've been placed this year, so many of them are going out of state for both 1L and 2L. And so I think it shows that I think Gators are everywhere. And I found that Gators in each city want to help other Gators. I was really lucky that during last summer when I was in New York, I was paired with a UF Law mentor. And I was able to meet with him over the summer, just get coffee and just talk about, hey, how do I meet other Gators in the city? And so he recommended I connect with the Gotham Gators, which is like the UF Alumni Gator Club up there. And that's something that now when I move back, I can join again and I'll be given immediately about 100 Gators in the city that I can connect with.
Yeah. I have found often that Gators outside of Florida tend to be even more passionate because when they find one another, it's like
we bond.
Instant connection,
exactly.
Right? Instant community. Talk about you said you love Gainesville. What do you do here for fun? For prospective students moving to Gainesville for the first time, like what are your tips and recommendations?
Yeah, so for Gainesville, I love the outdoors and everything. So I always love to go for walks in Depot Park. I love to walk around the pond and see the gators and the lake and everything. And it's a fun surprise when one pops up. And then I also just I think there's really great restaurants here in Gainesville. And so I love
What's your favorite?
I love the Top. Their pesto
Top
gnocchi with like chicken is one of my favorite dishes. I like dream about it. So I love it. It's one of my favorites. And then I also love Upper Crust Bakery. And so like my dry cleaning place is right next door. So I'll go get my dry cleaning and I'll go get my Upper Crust. And then I also love like Los Corritos right by the law school. I think it's fun. Like we'll all go and just like get dinner sometimes just to like take a break from exams, which I think is fun. I also love Satchel's. That's one of my favorites. It's a classic.
Pizza.
It's pizza and just they have so many cool things that you can eat in a van. They have an airplane at the restaurant. And so I think those are probably some of my favorites. But
it's a good college town spot. It feels very college town.
It does
Same
feel
with the
very
Top,
college town.
But yeah, but in a really good way. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also too, it doesn't necessarily have to be me going out into Gainesville. I find here like so many people just love to hang out at the law school on the weekends, and I'll find like we'll be studying and we'll just take like 2 hours and just sit and talk to each other. And so for me, I think that's like some of the favorite ways to spend my time is just hanging out with friends. And then we're like, hey, are we hungry? Do we want to go grab something? And even if it's going to Culver's or just running through a fast food, it's really like just nice to spend time with like my friends. Favorite class here at UF that you've had in the law school? Oh, that's a tough one. Federal Courts with You is up there as one of my favorites.
See, I paid her to say that. No.
I think it's one of the most challenging. And so I think that was cool to see, to put myself through that type of like learning experience and challenge that I could fit so much information in my brain in one semester. So I think that was one of my favorite classes. But I think too, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but Professor Wolking's Inside Out class was probably one of my favorites. So I was the first semester that we ever did it. So it was started at, I think it was Temple University that it was started, but it's called Inside Out. And so it refers to kind of a class where we went to Lancaster Correctional Institution, which is about 40 minutes west of Gainesville and Trenton. And we took class with inmates. So they were the inside students, we were the outside students. And it wasn't kind of designed to be a class where we sit and just gossip the entire time. It was supposed to be that we were learning about the criminal justice system with them. So we had curated readings that Professor Wolking put together from books, and each week we would get together and talk it through. And we would provide our perspective of law students of kind of how we interpreted things as future lawyers. And then the inside students would provide their perspective as someone who's been through the criminal justice system as a defendant and now an inmate. And we sat in a circle, each one opposite with each other. And I think it was just really impactful because, one, I learned about the criminal justice system in, I think, more an in-depth way than I ever could have learned just through a case book, because I got to hear their real-life experiences. But two, at the end of the semester, we separated into groups and we had to create a project that we worked on for the last few weeks of class. And it had to be a proposal of some sort that we thought would improve the criminal justice system in some way. So from that ended up one of the class project groups was to start a think tank. And we wanted to ensure that the projects we were working on in the class didn't just die at the end of the semester and not actually move forward. So we created a think tank where past students in the program, both the inside and outside students, go once a month back to Lancaster to meet and discuss the projects that we've been working on to ensure that kind of the ideas of what we're discussing in class are coming to life eventually. And so it's led to really great conversations with kind of individuals in the corrections department to talk about kind of ideas of how we can make them feasible. What do we need to change? So some of them were talking about like a garden and things like that. My group, we had two individuals in our class who they want to be tattoo artists when they get out. And so they wanted a tattoo artist training program. So they really took the lead on it. And we were there to provide the research and the support of kind of like, hey, this is what you need from the Florida Department of Corrections to make that come to life. How are we going to make that happen? And so we were like filling out the application for our project to show we have a packet that's ready to be turned in to show them how that can happen. And so I think for me to see that we were able to kind of just go from a group of people who never would have probably ever met and interacted to a class where we're actually creating ideas to make things better. I think that was really neat for me. And I think it also just made me a more empathetic person to understand what they're going through. And also I think the importance of the criminal justice system. I think I left knowing there's a purpose behind it and there's a reason for it and how we can improve things, but also like what we're doing well already was one of my favorite classes. And that led me to be involved with Professor Wolking for her clinic and kind of to want to continue to help with some of the other initiatives that she's doing.
Very cool. Will you pick up some of those threads in pro bono work, you think?
I think potentially, yes. Okay. I found that I've always kind of loved the criminal justice system. I don't think I'd want to do it as a career necessarily. I found that it was emotionally very challenging for me to deal with, but I found that I kind of loved the work itself and I thought it was very important work to do. And so that was something that I left kind of knowing that I think pro bono I'd be interested in kind of helping in the criminal justice space in my free time.
Awesome. Because you're going to have to find, well, you're going to be a little busy, but you like to really, you're kind of an all-in person, which I really like about you. I feel that commonality where if you're planted, you want all of your roots to go everywhere.
Yeah. I like to try to make an impact in as many places as I can.
Which we love. It's a very, it's quintessential Gator in lots of ways.
Definitely.
Talk as you reflect on your time here and which is coming very quickly to a close, which I'm personally very sad about. Your class is a special one. Let's think about sort of helping sort of the future of students who may be listening to this who are about to start law school. What would you tell a future law student, whether here or elsewhere? What advice to they want to follow in your shoes. You're doing things that you've had experiences in law school and beyond that are the dream. What advice do you give to students?
I think I kind of have two pieces of advice depending on where you are in the law school process. If you're about to start and you're kind of entering this summer before and you're wondering, what should I do spending my summer? I think the best piece of advice I got before I started law school from a fellow UF Law graduate was that in the summer before law school, try to do nothing. Try to relax and take a break and spend time just with your family and friends because law school is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not just your first semester of law school. It's 3 years. And I think it was kind of conveyed to me in a sense of a battery, of that you want your battery on day one of law school to be at 100%. Because at the end of that first semester, it's going to be drained to zero. And those breaks and those summer breaks are when you get to charge it back up. And so why would you not start law school at 100%? Why would you start at about 50% and then you're struggling to make it through what importantly now is the first semester is the most important semester of law school. And so for me, it's felt very counterintuitive. I was like, what do you mean? I'm not supposed to be reading all the books and I'm not supposed to be studying and learning the material. And they were like, no, don't touch it. And I said, okay. And so I ended up really just relaxing with my family. And the only thing I did was read for fun. And really just to kind of keep up my reading speed from undergrad to make sure I didn't lose it over the summer. And I think it made such a difference within my 1L year. I felt like when finals were coming around, I still had my battery was still full enough that I could give the energy I needed to. And I felt that other people in our class who kind of didn't take breaks in the summer were feeling really burnt out at that period of time. And I felt that I was really grateful that I took the time. And I think if you do need to work and you don't have that time off, that's completely fine too. But just at least take a couple hours, take a couple weekends to relax for yourself, because I think it's more important than you realize. And then I think for people who are kind of now in law school or about to start in your 1L, I think you hear a lot about like the importance of studying and how you should study. And everyone always talked about you need a study group. You must have a study group. If you don't have a study group, you're going to like fail. And for me, I always studied by myself in undergrad. Really? I was kind of a lone studier. And I would sometimes maybe join up with friends for maybe like an hour or two, but I really found that my most impactful studying was done alone. And I was really worried that I wouldn't meet friends or make friends in my class because I chose to study alone. And I tried a study group and I just found it wasn't working for me. I felt that in the 3 hours that I would maybe talk with them, I could accomplish more on my own that would stick and would be more helpful to me when I was taking the exam. And so I ended up the first semester kind of just going by myself. And it made me nervous that it wasn't going to work out. And I got very lucky. I was very happy with my grades, my 1L fall. But I think the pressure sometimes of like feeling that you have to follow everyone else in law school, of like you have to have the study group. If I'm not studying these hours a day, I'm not going to do my best. And so I think try to remember that whatever you did in undergrad, you got into law school for a reason. You were successful in undergrad in your major. And so don't feel pressured to change the way that you study just because you read a book or someone in law school gave you the advice that you had to have a study group. And I think for me, I found later on in law school, I would sometimes get together with a few friends who liked to study by themselves, and we would talk for maybe 2 hours. And we kind of had a rule that when it wasn't productive for any of us anymore, we would just say out loud, hey, this isn't working for me. And we would break out and we would go do our own thing. And I felt that my friends were very respectful of that too. They didn't judge me and they didn't say, oh, we don't want to hang out with Emma because she studies by herself. I just found that I needed to make time in my schedule to go socialize with them in other ways, because for me, studying was a time where I was going to be alone, whereas my friends would be hanging out studying. So I just made time in my schedule to go hang out with people, which I think made a difference.
Yeah, I love that advice too, because it's like it's not a one size fits all thing. I think that everybody, to succeed at anything that's hard, right? We still have to listen to ourselves and what works for us. And just because, studying in a group works for a friend or works for somebody else, if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Don't feel the pressure to sort of do it because, quote unquote, that's what you're supposed to do. It's you know yourself better than anyone.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, when you're taking that exam, it's you in the test. And so you don't want to waste all of your hours studying in a way that's inefficient for you, because you're just going to get to the exam and you're going to go, man, I really wish I had just done what worked for me. And I always found that in the end, it always worked out the way that it was supposed to for a class when I took the approach that matched with my learning style.
And I think Emma's advice is good advice to follow. Generally, if you're trying to find a role model out there, I can think of no one better than you. Last question, which I usually ask students: if you were dean for a day, what would you change here at the law school? Anything is fair game. One lesson, of course, is that deans actually don't control everything, but I like to ask because I want to know, like, what can we do better?
I think throughout my time at UF, I've had many, many slices of Domino pizza.
Okay. You'd like different pizza?
I think I'd switch to like a Satchel's pizza, like a local pizza. I think that'd be fun to like get to try different local spots.
Okay,
I think I would
diversity. You want Satchel's pizza?
Maybe like Satchel's.
I sometimes do Paisanos.
I love like Leonardo's up by the Millhopper area. Okay. There's like the Satch, I think it's like squared pizza now, like Satch squared. I feel like that'd be fun to do like different pizzas from different local places. Okay. I feel like that might be my thing.
Different local pizzas.
Because I love pizza and I've had so many slices of Domino's cheese and pepperoni pizza.
We do a lot of Domino's.
But I love it. I'm always grateful for the free food. I'll take it anytime.
We do a lot of free food. I feel like how many days a week do you think you could eat on campus for free?
I think probably like 4 to 5. I could probably eat every day. Because I always joke, it's actually in my commencement speech tomorrow, that we always leave leftover food in the commons for one another from meetings when we've had leftover food, so that if you're here at 5, 6 o'clock at night, there's dinner for you if you're worried about it.
Yes, we did a barbecue today. There was leftover food. It's also one of the benefits of working here, because then there's a little message that goes out that says, hey, there's leftovers in this room. So we do we do try to feed people.
But yeah, I think I'd change the variety of pizza.
The variety of pizza. All right. I like asking this because there's a good barometer on like how well we're doing. If like changing the pizza types is the feedback, then I feel like we're okay.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good. I've loved UF. I have no complaints. It's been a great experience.
We obviously picked, we pick wisely in inviting podcast guests, not ones that say redo everything. But thank you, Emma.
Of course,
good luck tomorrow. You're going to be great. I'm excited for
it.
It's my favorite day of the year. So we'll look forward to seeing you in your fancy hat with your stripes on and everything. But congratulations to you on an amazing experience here at UF. I know you're going to go to New York, but I know that you'll still do whatever you can for UF just because that's who you are. And we look forward to seeing you on the road in New York and getting you back here when work allows.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Go Gators.
Right. Go Gators. All right. We should do a chomp, right?
Yes.
All right. Ready? Oh, we didn't time it very well. 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right.